We speak to GC royalty. I have an excellent conversation with Rob Booth, who's the GC at the Crown Estate, whose job pretty much is to look after the Queen's stuff. So I hope you enjoy a great conversation between us.
And now for something completely different.
So could you talk to us a little bit about the organisation that you, I suppose, work for and the challenges you face kind of in your role and how you're trying to drive that with technology and things of that notion?
Sure. So for people who haven't really heard of the Crown Estate, we are effectively an organisation that manages on behalf of the Crown, but for the benefit of the nation, a really, really diverse asset base from the UK seabed to the edge of the continental shelf, all the way through to millions of square feet of super prime West End real estate. And we've been doing that organisationally for a very long time. We can trace our roots back to 1066 and the current settlement back to 1760. But in some senses, in what we're doing, we're no different to any young organisation. We're competing in a marketplace that's looking for the best product, for the best customer experience. We are disrupted by digital in exactly the same way as our peer group are. And therefore, our job is to use our history and our purpose to do better going forward, rather than to rest in the history that sits behind us. It's a point of difference for us, but it doesn't define our future. We're to do that.
Excellent. So how do you try and drive, I suppose, the adoption of technology without effectively ruffling people's feathers and that notion?
So I think a bit of feather ruffling is probably part of the process, actually. But in the overall, I've always found the best way that you can continue to do that is to just remain humble. It's from arrogance and overconfidence that takes away the need to change. And then I think using moments in your journey as they arise to really grab change. So we had a new chief executive join in December of last year, and he's brought a real change agenda with him, which is fantastic, actually. The whole organisation thinking again about its purpose, thinking about how we're constitutionally set up to do what we do. And with that, the inevitability of ensuring that we're delivering that at scale and as efficiently as possible, which draws you inexorably to a really, really good conversation about technology, but founded on what the business is, what the business needs to do, what our customers are after.
Where did you start? Was it with something simple like an eSignature tool, or did you try and do something a bit more complicated? What was kind of the ethos?
So actually where we started was probably a step removed from that, which was to develop a value equation. So we have this value model that sits at the middle of what we do as a function. So how we work with our partner organizations and how we run ourselves. And that brings together 8 constituent baskets of value. And actually that was our foundational principle, because once you can start measuring value and work out where you are, you can also identify the pain points and the opportunities that you can start to apply technology to. Now, at a practical level, actually things like eSignature tools are brilliant for 2 reasons. One, they add efficiency, but for the other, the look of delight on one of your internal customers' faces when they click a mouse and magically this sort of verified signature appears on a contract that previously they would have had to have physically signed. No, it's a great place to start. And from there, you are necessarily able to step into things like how do you digitize your workflows. That flows into contract and matter management. And I think it's a neat Trojan horse to going on a tech journey as a function.
I agree. My day job is selling tech. Yeah. So sometimes you speak to organizations and they want to get super complicated super quickly. And I get a bit nervous by that because, again, I've been in organizations in the past where you kind of only get really one shot at doing this kind of stuff. And if it doesn't work the first time, us by nature, we're never going to do it again. So, and this is the same, we rolled out a contract management system where I used to work, it failed. And so I was just like, I'm not going to use this again. I'm going to email Rob instead of using the really expensive tool that Rob bought. Yeah. So it's tricky. You have to really kind of manage that, don't you?
It is. And where we got to was sort of 2 principles. One, we didn't want to build something bespoke ourselves, because having seen other people do that, it's quite brittle. You're then reliant on your own internal support mechanisms in order to continue to iterate it forwards. And you're never going to compete with proprietary stuff if you're going down that route. And the other was to build it slowly. This sense that if you're really in there with your requirement gathering and your understanding of what you need, you do build your tech stack slowly, and also that I think forces you to go human first, process second, technology third, to keep the rhythm right.
Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time.
Because otherwise you really commit to this tool, and then suddenly it's actually I need to use it for everything because I need to get my ROI where it needs to be. It's not a great way to implement.
Makes sense. And this, because one of the analogies that I would really like that you use is kind of that gold and silver chest process. So for the people who don't know what that is, would you mind explaining it a bit?
Sure. So this is a concept that initially came out of the way that we were structuring our panel system, so our law firms and alt providers, and has now become one of the foundational principles of the way that the Bionic Lawyer project works. But it basically splits all problems that you could need to solve into two. The first of those are called Silverbox problems, and they're still important. Silver is valuable, but they're generally kind of rules-based, kind of predictable, and they're eminently amenable to the application of process and technology in order to really efficiently deliver them with very little error involved in them. So humans have to be involved to build the model and to maintain the model, but actually you should then be able to let it run with a minimum of human intervention. Sure. Then you've got the gold, and gold, slightly sexier than silver, and that's where the really complicated stuff sits. So this is where there's uncertainty, it might be a lacuna in the law, untested space, and there you solve in a completely different way. You still want your technology because that can put information into the right place and can organize you, but actually that's where you're grouping together hopefully diverse thinkers in order to solve the problems. And our panel system sits to that split in the way that we do our mandates, and the way that we look at the world sits to that split too.
So kind of pivoting to the bionic lawyer, for the benefit of I suppose people watching this, what is it and what do you do?
So I think if you were trying to sum it up in one sentence, you'd say it's effectively a group of people coming together to try and unlock the potential of the legal industry, which sounds quite high and mighty, right? But actually, I'm quite fond of the legal industry, but also I think it plays a really, really important role in the structure of our society. What we've actually done is bring together what's now nearly 500 people in order to try and establish what the design principles of the legal industry should be. So kind of how do you operate, how do you set it up, with a view to sort of coming up with a series of really practical levers. There are 16 of them now, which if all of the institutions from law firms to in-house teams to education establishments pulled those levers, then you really would have a good chance of unlocking the potential that's in the industry now, but also to attract future potential that's greater than what we have at the moment. And that's the plan. It is institution agnostic. So we're trying to find an answer in the middle rather than it being this is for law firms or this is for in-house teams. The 500 people come from everywhere and way beyond the legal industry as well, which is what's so exciting. I have the core team who are helping Stephanie, Stephen and I as the co-founders to do this constitute a wonderful neuroscientist, a commentator, someone who used to describe themselves as a digital soothsayer. This is great sort of collaborative action coming into that core. And we're currently publishing 16 levers with a view to that being phase one. And then phase two is to take those levers, continue to build the movement and to start tooling. So genuinely using it as a way to create toolkits to solve problems that exist at the moment. Going forward, we are going to work in teams, not in a sort of dispersed group, go off and do their thing and bring it back, but genuinely teaming. A lawyer, traditional definition, our definition of lawyer is a bit broader than that, but let's say solicitor, we'll make it a term of art. A solicitor is one of a series of diverse problem solvers who comes together to do that well. And how you build the environment that does that to us is fundamental. Start there and then think about your process, and then absolutely definitely move on to your technology to allow the scale, error reduction, big data analysis that you need to do to really prime that stuff.
And it's as easy as that. That's
magic.
Thing.
Yeah.
But no, Rob, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
Been a pleasure. Thanks ever so much.